Assalamu alaikum, viewers and listeners. Welcome back to our web series on sourcing grants, managing grants, acquiring grants. This is a grant series 101. We have already done one episode with you where we talked about project management, understanding the grant cycle in the context of managing a project, and how to do M&E, how to embed M&E as part of the grant cycle. Today, some of the topics that we're going to be talking to you about with our expert Shazib Irshad, who's a grant specialist as well as a project management specialist, is building further in depth into understanding the grant cycle, the various stages. He's going to expand on the various stages for us for the grant cycle. Then, after that, we will talk to you about how to source and develop the pipeline for grants. And in the second part of this episode, what we will also do is we will go further into grant pipeline management and also build a live tracker for you. So stay tuned for more. Thank you. Thank you, Noor Hira, and thank you, Shazib, and thank you to the Noor Center for Research and Policy for together setting up a collective platform for this kind of very important knowledge sharing for the development community and for those who are working with or running social enterprises.
Okay, so Shazib, when you talked about identification, I think it's very important for somebody who's looking for grants to know what are the most authentic, platforms that they can look for grants, and then how can they work through them? How can they identify what will suit them well, or which platforms they should look for?
Great. So for that, I have a list of portals or websites that I go to. I have a slide prepared for it. So there are 5 essentially. The first is a self-explanatory one, but let me go through it. It's called Google Alerts. Rather than going and searching for funding opportunities, and that results in time being taken out of my day every day, Google Alerts is an amazing tool. So you can set up Google Alerts, and what you can do is go on Google right now. You can either finish this talk and go on Google, or you can pause it and go on Google right now, and you can search for how to set up Google Alerts. It will show you how to set up Google Alerts for keywords that are most important or relevant to you. So themes like health, education, livelihoods creation, and organizations like USAID or DFID, which is the UK government's development arm, are important to me because that constitutes the bulk of the funding opportunities and themes that you get in Pakistan. Because they are important to me, I have set up Google Alerts either on a daily or a weekly basis. That gives me an email every day or every week as per my preference. And whenever anything new is published that has these keywords or a combination of these keywords, it automatically makes its way into my inbox. So when I come into the office or when I start my work, I would just open my emails, look for my Google Alerts feed, and then I can check what new funding opportunities or what news has come up on these themes. Then we have grants.gov, which is the website on which the US government publicizes all open and past funding opportunities. It has everything from procurement contracts to federal government contracts to international grants that the US government gives out. And in a bit, I can take you to grants.gov and show you how I go and look for funding opportunities. Great. Then we have gov.uk, and that is the UK government's development arm. So all the funding opportunities by the UK government are posted here. Then you have Funds for NGOs. Funds for NGOs has a paid membership as well, but I generally just subscribe to their weekly newsletter that gives me access to the new funding opportunities and the themes that I'm interested in. And even if I'm not able to view all the funding opportunities on their platform, I can basically run a Google search regarding the opportunities or the funding organizations that they did talk about, and that is enough for my purposes. The last is proposals. There is going to be a link here. We can also make that link public after we publish this episode. And in that link on peak proposals is a list of all the development agencies for every country and any other organization that is working to give out grants internationally. So then I make it a point to cull through them once a month to check if there are any other funding opportunities that I might have missed from the initial portals and websites that I talked about. So very quickly, I can take you to grants.gov.
I just want to remind our viewers that we are now going to do a live grant pipeline session with you in terms of how to build, source and build your own tracker. So this is hopefully something that most of you will be able to take away from this episode and put into practice in your own organizations. And Shazeb, back over to you now that we have grants.gov. We are going to be using this as a demo.
Great. So as you can see, grants.gov is an amazing website. You can even learn a lot about grants. So you have the Grants Learning Center right over here. So if you have anything to do with raising funds from the US government, you can basically go to the Learn Grants tab on grants.gov website, and it will, I think, be very beneficial to anyone who is new to the field. Going forward, we basically are going to be searching for grant opportunities, because this is either site content or grant opportunities. Then you have a keyword. For me, rather than searching for education or healthcare, I can simply go and search for Pakistan. And it will show me all funding opportunities for Pakistan. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side, it is showing me the funding instrument type. They have cooperative agreements, grants, procurement contracts, and any other funding type. Now, I am primarily interested in open funding opportunities. So I've clicked on posted and then grants. As you can see, there are 6 funding opportunities available. One is intensive media training for investigative journalists. Then there is the knowledge success. APS stands for annual program statement. Then there is fundamental research to counter weapons of mass destruction. Based on whatever theme my organization is working in, let's just go in and go use the intensive media training for investigative journalists. Because this is largely regarding capacity building, it is important when you open this tab to just look at these areas first. The award ceiling is $1,975,000, and that's also the award floor, which means that they're primarily looking to give this to one beneficiary organization and for them to execute the entire program. I may be wrong on this, but at least the award ceiling is set, like that's the only amount that they have allocated for it. Then you can go on to the related documents tab, and that will give you access to their budget templates, guidelines, announcements, and the notice of funding opportunity. NOFO stands for notice of funding opportunity. So let's just go through the announcement.
Yes.
Okay. So in this announcement, the eligibility category is US-based non-profit, non-government organizations, which means that if I am a Pakistan-based organization, this wouldn't apply to me. So off the bat, I know that this funding opportunity, before even putting into my tracker, isn't even prioritized. I can go back to the search, and then I can come back to the knowledge and success grant. In this grant, you'll be able to see that the estimated total program funding is $35 million. The award ceiling is also $35 million. A lot of times they just put that in as default. What you can do is go back and say that the United States government is seeking proposals. The annual program statement publicizes the intention of the United States government to fund one or multiple awards to address overarching annual program statement program purpose of improving and strengthening. This is important. Now that's a mouthful, but even if I take out the keywords, they're saying that they want to fund programs that support increased utilization of evidence-based information in global health programming to improve global health goals. So this is primarily in the interest of organizations that are working in health or community mobilization for health or research for health. So you can go into the related documents and they will actually have details of the full announcement. So if we can quickly go, I will open the PDF. Okay, now what is very interesting is that they're not talking about proposals. The first thing that you see is questions, deadlines before the first submission of concept paper. So what's the difference between a concept paper and a proposal? For starters, it's less detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was an easy question, but I'm sure you understood. Then it has a deadline, which is July 9th. So if you've just identified it and we're in mid-June, then you know that you have a little over 20 days to do this. Then, because you already know that the award is anywhere between $35 million, that doesn't mean that the minimum amount can be, the maximum amount for any grant has to be $35 million. They will definitely divide this into different organizations, which means that now I need to understand what is needed. They actually want intermediate, these are the results that they need. Critical health knowledge and information made available and accessible. Global health knowledge exchange and collaboration brokered and supported to facilitate knowledge use. and sustainable capacity built for global health, knowledge sharing, collaboration, learning, and adaptation. All of these are things that any health focused, research oriented nonprofit in Pakistan should be able to deliver. As you can see that this entire PDF has 90 pages. Now, no one has time to go over all of the 90 pages, because if I started doing that, then I will be losing time in my identification phase. Now that I know that the minimum components necessary for me to put it in my identification file, I can basically just go and put this in my tracker and go on and find the next opportunity from gov.uk, funds for NGOs, or any other portal that might suit your funding needs or that might feature funding opportunities that are most relevant to you. Yes, ma'am.
So basically, Shahzeeb, I think it's very important to just to recap, so our viewers don't get lost in a lot of information. It's important to understand, number one, are you eligible to file for this grant? Number
Yes.
two, is this grant offering you funding opportunities in areas that you specialize in? For
Absolutely.
example, this is clearly a health system strengthening related grant. Now, if you work purely in education or you work in microfinance, even though it's a big grant and you may think, hey, we can use this to fund our operations or our core team, no, that's not a good idea. Please find grant opportunities in your field. Spend more time building your tracker. Don't fall into this trap. Back to you, Shahzeeb.
Great. I'd like to challenge you a bit on this one. So, if they're asking for a health based programming and they say evidence based approach, in order to get the evidence based approach, you might be a community mobilization initiative that might be able to facilitate another health facility's access to people that you're already serving. In that case, this will become a brilliant opportunity for a consortium to be set so that both organizations can achieve their funding goals and the donor organization can have access to a larger pool of organizations that might be willing and best and better suited to execute that funding opportunity.
I would not disagree on that. You just have to align, and it has to align somewhere with your goals. There cannot be a misalignment between what the funding opportunity is asking for and the skill set that you and your organization are able to provide into it. If that can be a joint skill set in partnership with an organization, well and good. But even that joint skill set should not be, say, in the field of microfinance, where it has nothing to do with this. So that was basically my point.
Absolutely. And to give you an example, you might be a health focused organization only focusing on direct service delivery. You might never have done anything research oriented. So then this would be a perfect opportunity to get a research partner on board, because now both your organizations may be able to find funding and do something that would have combined given you a larger impact than you working alone.
Absolutely. Agreed, 100%.
Actually, I have a question, Shahzeeb.
Sure.
While you were talking about identifying grants and using different platforms, one of the things that came to my mind was that this could look like a very daunting task for somebody who's looking for new opportunities, because it tends to be a lot of overload of information, right? And then you're keeping track of so many things.
Hmm.
So, once a person has identified different grants that they're supposed to pitch for, how can they effectively track them?
Great. So I have a tracker that I use from all the time for any organization that I work with. And because I don't work with one organization, I get hired to consult on helping organizations build their own capacity. The website that I use is called Trello, Trello. On it, because of this web series and because of a lot of impetus on grant funding and how very little grant funding is being made available to nonprofit organizations just because they don't have access to tools or they're not able to plan, I have actually made my own tracker available to anyone for free to be copied. And it actually has all the stages that we have talked about in this episode, along with the donor types, priorities, and what the processes that I follow. So you'll be able to see very briefly. I don't know if you can, we'll very shortly go into it, but I've talked about identification. Let me actually annotate it very quickly. So if you can see this, this is the identification list, this is the prioritization list, this is the engagement list, this is the application or proposal submission or preparation list. So I can take you to the tracker now and show you exactly what I mean when I say that this is dynamic and it aids in collaboration. So yeah. Great. Can you see this?
Yes.
Now, this is the identification list. From identification, we go all the way into prioritization, engagement, preparation, submitted application, pre-award status, contract and grant award, ongoing operations, and then closing. This can either be closing of the entire funding opportunity or closing of that particular project. If you want to distinguish that, you can make further lists. Essentially, let me show you the real value of using this tracker. Let's actually create a new card for the funding opportunity that we just talked about. Now, it says this is a template card, and it says sample template, donor, and opportunity name. Now, it says create card from template. As soon as I click this, it has given me an option of what would I like to call the funding opportunity. Now, as you can see, I've already set donor and opportunity name. So I will say USAID Health Systems Research. Okay, and I will still put it in identification, because you can put it in largely any list that I have already created, which encapsulates all the grant phases. So I put it in identification. I created the card, and as you can see, there is a new one that says USAID Health Systems Research. Got it? When I open this, I can just remove the cover that I had earlier. And I can put in something new related to what I had, and it would showcase that on top of that. But let me just color it yellow. Okay, I'm just working on this. Then in the description, it has talked about deadline for submission. And in it, I can write concept note due on July 9th. Maximum funding, they say, that is, let's say 35 million USD. Actually, that's the minimum funding. So let's just cut that, paste it over here. I don't know what the minimum funding is. The grant requirement is to be reviewed. And I can also add attachments over here. Whatever attachments, so the file that we just reviewed that had 90 pages, I can just put that in as an attachment. And then this is the beauty of it. I've already put in all the types of possible donor agencies that you might have for it, or types of donors. So this is a bilateral aid. The grant size is large, right? You had small, medium, and large. Your grant size is large. And then you can put in the initial due date for anybody else to do this. So I can say that I want any initial action that I want taken on this on the coming Monday. I will save that, and there I go. As soon as I click elsewhere, you will be able to see this funding opportunity, right? You can put it in prioritization. You can also add anyone else that you might want to in this, and they will get a notification. And your job then becomes moving this funding opportunity from identification or prioritization to the application or proposal preparation as quickly as possible, right?
Fantastic.
So then you can actually even make standard operating procedures that when something is in identification, only the two people who are working in the grants team are looking at this. But the moment it goes into prioritization, I can also set in systems and processes that if I was working with NCRP, the moment I add one card here, it will automatically add members from the operations and monitoring and evaluation team for them to do a further review. They can set up meetings, they can talk about it, and if it really feels like an opportunity that they would like to go after, they can move this to engagement or application or proposal preparation. Right? Now, when you go into application or proposal preparation, I've already added another sample card in which we talk about the proposal components. So you have the rationale, you have the proposed approach, you've got the budget, you've got the M&D plan, you've got sustainability metrics, and you can add further attachments. Anything that you might like, you can even add or connect your own organization's Google Drive to it, so that all the templates that you might be working for that particular funding opportunity will be available to you. You can already assign labels to it. So if you can see these labels, it is completed action, in progress, final review phase, urgent. I might say that this is urgent for me. Actually, let's go back and let me say that this is urgent, right? Now, when it is urgent, you already have a funding opportunity in which you might be able to say that it is important for us that whenever urgent is, right now you see it here, whenever you see this on a card, then that becomes high priority for the team that is working on it. You can have any number of members on it, and you can have whatever deadline you might be associating with it, and then you can click the calendar option and it would tell you what has gone beyond its due date and what hasn't. So using this tool, very easily you can see that when it was created, you can even park it in submitted applications. You can even attach the confirmation that you got to submit your application. If it goes ahead, you can actually go contract and grant award, and that can either become its own card, or you can keep on improving the card over here, and you can add any fields that you might like, any number of people, and that would actually make it a much more enjoyable and engaging process than using PowerPoints or Excel sheets that we have used initially when we started working in the field.
Nazib, I have a quick question for you here.
Sure.
How do is this software cloud-based or is it app-based? How do we connect multiple people working on it together so that if one person makes an edit like they make on a Google sheet, it automatically gets uploaded and is visible to the other users? Does this work like that?
Yes, that happens by default. All you do is click the invite, and you have the invite button. You can invite with the link. I haven't created that, but you can even put in anybody's email address or name, and then they become a member, and then whatever they add, you will be able to see.
Can you
what I do,
another user? Does it track it with their initials or with the? How do you know that somebody has added something to it?
It has an activity field. So I can go in the show menu. Actually, this is a template card, but when you actually make it for your own organization, you can click on the activity sheet and it will show you who did what in your board while you were away. You can even do a watch. It doesn't allow it in this template, but there is a watch option. That means that you will be notified anytime somebody makes any change in this list. So generally, if I'm working with an organization and I am really interested in the identification phase, I can just enable the watch function here, and then anything that happens in this list, I will be notified of.
So, okay. Sorry, Shadeb, I'm just getting really interested and excited about this, and I'm sure our viewers are too.
Sure.
When you transition from using Excel and Word and other and Microsoft Office applications into this, what was your single largest eureka moment in that where you said, "Hey, okay, the world has turned for me"?
So my work actually became much more transportable for me because it has apps. It has an Android app, it has an iOS app. I already have it as a tab that is always in my browser. It becomes very easy for me to look at the status of anything that I'm working on here. Right now, this is a template that I have made in order to just track funding opportunities that I am keeping an eye out for organizations that hire me in consulting capacity. But I even run my own, any organization that I head. Right now, I'm heading an organization that is working in livelihoods creation, and I can run my entire organization from a Trello board. My operations teams, my marketing teams, my field mobilization teams, everybody I will either be on their separate Trello board, and sometimes in order to aid collaboration, I will create a Trello board in which everyone is there in order to brainstorm or solve for problems or collaborate for things that are needed for all the members of that board.
Excellent. So that's
and I think it's also really essential considering that everybody is working remotely now. This sort of keeps them connected on what the other person is doing at the moment.
Absolutely. So as you see, you can see this cover. This is the same image that you've just seen in the presentation, and I added it as a cover. You can do a lot more functionalities with it, and whatever you might want to change, it is instantly available. Everybody knows who has done it. I sometimes even have backups of the boards that I wanted, and you could create them without any cost. So if you're so fearful that somebody might make a change and you might not know, or this is important information, you can even create backups, and it would always be available to you.
And Shazib, does it save permanently? It's not like where it may get wiped off or whatever. Is it like a file, for example, that you save in Excel? Is it there on your machine forever?
So the default function is that you can't delete any card. You first have to archive it. It will always be available. If you accidentally archive it, you can go back to your archives, you can reinstate that card, and when something has been in your archives for too long, you can then go back and delete it from the archives.
Wonderful. I think with that, Shahzeb, we can move towards wrapping up our episode today and thank our viewers and our listeners for patiently listening to us. And if you have any questions or queries, you can reach out to us through various forums, including on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel where we will be uploading episodes from time to time. And thank you very much for joining us and look forward to seeing you in our next episode.